Um, so you tell me what's new. I haven't been following the posts y'all have made in here. Get down. Sorry, dog. I haven't been following the posts in here of all the things you guys have been discussing as of late. Got other things going on. So you tell me, what do you want to talk about? If there's anybody here that wants to talk about anything that you want to tell me in the investigating y'all have been doing. So, and if there's nobody here with anything to discuss, then I'll go watch TV. Let's see. What can I say while waiting to see if anybody has something they want to discuss? Marnie, the roommate, the bad roommate that was causing a whole lot of drama, has been removed out of her room. And she had the one night that she got the room to herself. And now she said there was a nice roommate there. So Marnie's going to be able to try and get herself back to normal. Somebody else from the Justice Review team had also visited with her in person. And they came away with the same thing that I said. She looks like shit. So it was obvious to us both that this was more than just drama between people that don't like each other, that this was a bad thing. So it'd been worked on for a long time, but finally she was moved. So that was good. And I'm planning on going to see both Marnie and Melissa on Wednesday if they're up for it, but I have to use my time wisely because I have an event that I've organized that starts at 6 p.m. and I got to be there at 5 for setup. And it's a 2.5 hour drive for the prison. So, and what makes things difficult, and hi Carol from Australia, is that they do not allow people in or out of the prison somewhere in the window of 2 and 5 p.m. So sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's 2:30, then sometimes there's 4, sometimes there's 4:45. So I'm going to have to make sure then that I visit them both and I'm done at 2 o'clock for when they call for count. So I can drive the 2.5 hours back here and get to my town hall at 5 for setup. So they like me to come on Wednesdays. They want me to move it to another day, then that would make things easier for me. But it's not about me, because no matter what it does in my life, it's nothing compared to what they're going through. So I'll wait to hear back from them if I'm doing the Wednesday thing. But I also need Tammy from Justice Review wants a new picture of Marnie, because we're now scheduled to file for her on October 1 and press conference on October 2. And Marnie doesn't like having her picture taken, doesn't now. I know it seems odd since, you know, she did modeling and such before prison, but so there's no updated pictures of Marnie. And Tammy would like an updated picture of her to use with the press conference and any press they do. So they only take pictures at that prison on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And it's only like 12:30 to 1:30. That's it. That's your window for pictures. And then they don't always do it. So like they went a couple months without doing pictures at all because they said there wasn't any ink for the camera or for the printer. So And the last time I visited was the first time the guy, and he's an employee at the prison. Like he does like rec center stuff or something like that. I don't know. So that's how Marnie and I got a picture taken. Not Marnie, Melissa and I got a picture taken on the last visit. So even going on a Wednesday doesn't mean there'll be a picture. But since I go on Wednesdays, next Wednesday would be the one that I go to, and the one following is when it's the Marnie press conference. So I wouldn't be able to just switch flip-flop Wednesdays. Let me scroll. Leanne says, I'm such a good egg. Oh, you think so? I just had the cops called on me on Sunday. And also because a woman filed a false police report against me saying that I assaulted her. So then I went to where she was in public and confronted her on it, and they called the cops on me there. And nothing happened. Nothing has happened on both of them. So I'm a good egg. Yeah. But I'm somebody who will fight for what I think is right, and doesn't always come off in a nice way. More often than not, it doesn't come off in a nice way. Stephen's case. So I know Carol Ann Fitzgerald was sending in pictures of Kathleen's filings, that Kathleen wanted to get her filing to be able to have more words than they're allowed to have, and then it was turned down, right? So stupid stuff. So that then Kathleen had said she had announced one place that she was filing on October 10th. Then it was listed online October 7th. And now with this word change thing, wasn't there a third date? Let me scroll and see if some of you, Leanne says, what do you think of the last file denied? For Stephen's case, it's expected because it's Judge Flowers. I never understand why the case has to go back to the judge that already ruled against you, because it's going to be hard for them to go, oh, I guess I was wrong here. Let's give you a do-over. So that denial, Leanne, was nothing. Miley says, hey, at work, we'll watch later. Hope you are well, Jackson. Hope everyone here is doing well also. Yeah, I'm tired right now. I don't know why, but and now I'm going to yawn. Maybe it's because I was just stuck in stupid Chicago traffic for like 2 hours. So right now I'm tired, but other than that, doing well. So thank you for those of you who are constantly in gossip and you're posting all the stuff that you're investigating in here on Stephen's case. Just because I don't read it doesn't mean it's not important, and that I, and I do appreciate it, because, there's many people who are interested in reading all of that. So that's also why I said that this live was about, why don't you all fill me in on that stuff that I haven't kept up with? No, Jennifer Flowers did not remove herself. Kathleen requested her to, and she said no. So Flowers is the one that did the last denial, but it was expected, and it's no big deal. It's not like, oh my God, poor Stephen's case. No, it was expected. But it's also another thing of how stupid our system is, that you have to constantly go through those steps, that it's all for show, because it's going to be denied, but you have to do that. And then it takes weeks and months and years to go through all those steps. Yeah, that's probably what you were thinking. So what are you, I'm seeing stuff that people are talking about the RAV4. I saw something on that. Oh my God, now I'm going to keep yawning. I bore myself. I'm going into gossip on my other page, on my other screen here. All All right, so the first post that comes up is Kelly made a post saying, this pic shows the VIN tag removed from the car and blurry. Has anyone found a better pic of the VIN tags on the car yet? Does that mean when KZ finally gets the car, the VIN tags won't be on it? And I know that's something people have been discussing, right? That's what they're thinking is the reason why they won't let Kathleen have access to the RAV4, is that it is not Teresa's at all, and the VIN was changed. At this point, anything is possible. I can't rule out that they would switch a VIN tag, because wasn't it admitted? Sorry, now I'm going to keep yawning because I started. That they had to make a key. So if they made a key, why wouldn't they make a VIN tag? Corey says, waste of taxpayers' money. Earl says, big news is that TikTok Manitowoc exposed that Ryan wrote the Sikaki letter. Really, Earl? How does he get that? How I don't know if TikTok's a man or a woman, nor do I really care, because it seems to me from stuff I've seen from TikTok Manitowoc is that TikTok has now become kind of a fangirl. So how do they get to that? Let me see if there's anything that's been posted in here. Sorry, yawning, because I thought one of the important things too was Sikaki was going to mean skinny, which is Scott's nickname, and that most of the people he worked with are illiterate, and that's how they would have spelled Sikaki. Handwriting comparison. I don't know if I'm buying that. Yeah. I guess you'd have to give me, there'd have to be, all right, here's Corey posted 14 hours ago. So on the samples on the left in each example is the Sikaki letters compared to samples on a very, very clear view of a document we've all seen before on the right. You be the handwriting experts here. I don't know about that. I don't think that letter is Ryan Hilgas. Yeah, I don't think it's Ryan Hilgas at all that wrote that letter. Yeah, no, I don't, but that's my opinion. So, but even looking at that handwriting comparison, that's not enough to me to think it was Ryan Hilgas that wrote that letter. That doesn't make any sense to me, because how would he know any of it? How the smelter? Yeah, no, so somebody out there watching, you tell me then how it all adds up, but it doesn't add up to me. I still firmly believe the Sikaki letter was written by somebody who saw Scott or doing something at the aluminum foundry in the smelter there at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m., whatever the letter said. Yeah, because why would Ryan Hilgas send that? And it was found in the Green Bay post office, right? I mean, and I'm really reaching because I haven't looked into this stuff in forever, so I don't remember. Oh my God, why am I yawning so much now? So anybody on here? There's only 27 of you on right now. So somebody on here, can you convince me that was Ryan Hilgas? Let's see. What are your comments on the thread? Did somebody post a picture of the Sikaki letter in here? I don't see a picture. Let me see. Can I pull it up on my other screen? Okay, so pulling it up. Body was burnt up in aluminum smelter, 3 a.m. Friday morning. Sikaki. Why would Ryan send that? Jasmine says, could it have been written falsely to try and divert ideas by the cops? Anything's possible. Debbie says, was the smelter ever checked? I don't recall if it's ever been checked. Jasmine says, I haven't looked into this letter much. Yeah, so, and then the envelope had said Manitowoc Sheriff and then said Avery on it. And what is this? What is that picture? I don't know what that picture is supposed to be of. Yeah, somebody would have to give me the theory on why Ryan Hilgas would write that, why he would say a smelter. Where does a smelter come into play? It just, to me, makes more sense that Scott took something to the foundry where he worked and somebody saw something. Earl said, signed Avery. He was building the evidence against Stephen. Was it signed Avery? It doesn't look like it was signed by Avery. The letter makes it look like it was signed, it was Sikaki, which would be Skinny. So somebody trying to make it look like Scott sent it. Which, yeah, that's what Debbie says. Heather says, I don't know much about this. When was this letter found? The letter was found at the Green Bay post office, right? I don't remember when. Oh my gosh, I just keep yawning. What is this? Why can't I read that? It's all blurry. All right, hold on. I'm trying to bring this one up. Says, can I bring up this picture? Okay. So it says description, planted letter from an unknown author. Letter found in random mailroom sorting area. A single page without an envelope. Names with locations contained in text. Taken into evidence implicating Stephen Avery. Even deemed cryptic. I just got an email from Melissa. Cryptic by presiding judge. Dismissed as evidence in the trial. It's not saying when it was found, though. I'm trying to scan through this to see if it says when it was found. And I don't know. Let me see if I can pull up my files. because I have a timeline that I wrote at one point, and let me see if on that timeline I wrote several years ago, if it's got when the letter was found. Now I have to look through all these things and see where it is, because you would think it would be titled timeline and it's not. Where is it? Let me scroll and see if somebody else has something so it's not just everybody sitting here in silence. Jasmine says, the images online are so pixelated. I don't believe it's a truthful letter. I think it's another stunt to frame Stephen. By who? I have no theory. Praying from the UK for you, Stephen and Brendan. Debbie says, is anyone connected to or related to a postal worker? I'm sure there's got to be, because everything I see there is it's so like incestuous on how everybody is related in some way. Where is this timeline? So I don't know what it's titled. And I know I've posted it before. Nope, there it is. Let me see if it's in my timeline when the letter was found. Get over onto this page. Sorry, I'm technology. All right. Sorry, because it goes all the way back to the Penny Bernstein case. I'm scanning. Sorry for the silence. This thing hasn't been updated in forever, but it goes back a long way. And I know I've posted it on Gossip before. It might be in our files. Yeah, I don't see anything in just scanning this, anything about the Sikiki letter, which would be an important thing to be included in here. Why don't I have the Sikiki letter in this timeline? All right, let me go to, I'm going to read you. I'm going to read you from my timeline what I have starting in October of 2005. So the first date I have for October 2005 is October 11th. And it says, Lieutenant James Link is deposed and he acknowledges the call Colborne got in 1995. Sandra Morris is also deposed this day. Then on the 13th, Sheriff Kenneth Peterson is deposed and denies any knowledge of anything that would have cleared Stephen Avery. Also on the 13th, Sergeant Andrew Colborne is deposed and claims he doesn't recall speaking to anyone about Stephen Avery's case. Judy Dvorak is also deposed and admits she suggested Stephen looked like the person Penny Bernstein was describing. 10/26. Chief Deputy of Manitowoc County, Eugene Couchet, is deposed about his sketch looking almost exactly like Stephen Avery's mugshot from 1985. He denies having access to the mugshot. He framed his sketch and has been proudly displaying it for almost 20 years. He also questions if Stephen Avery is really innocent and the validity of the DNA that freed him. 10/31. Stephen Avery calls the Auto Trader at 8:12 a.m. to request that Teresa Halbach come photograph a minivan he was selling. He leaves the name B. Yonda, which was for his sister Barbara Yonda, as it was her car. Teresa Halbach calls Barb Yonda at 11:43 a.m., saying she will be there sometime after 2 p.m. Teresa Halbach takes pictures of a car for sale at the Schmitz residence around 1:30 p.m. Teresa is at the Zipper residence sometime between 2 and 2:30 p.m. Dawn Plitzka of the Auto Trader talks to Teresa at 2:27 p.m., and Teresa tells her she is on her way to the Avery brothers. Scott Taddock said he arrived home at 3:15 p.m. and then went hunting. He passed Bobby Dassey on the road, who claims that he was also going hunting. Brendan and Blaine Dassey got off the bus at 3:45 p.m. The bus driver testifies that she saw a woman taking pictures of a vehicle. Barb comes home and makes dinner for them at 5 p.m. Blaine leaves at 5:20, 5:30 with his friend Jason to go trick-or-treating. Barb leaves around 5:30 to go with Scott to Green Bay to visit his mom in the hospital. Blaine's boss calls at 5:45. Brendan used to work for him too. Stephen Avery calls Brendan shortly after that and asked him to come watch a bonfire. 15 minutes later, Stephen calls again, asking what is taking so long. Brendan was changing his pants and putting on a sweatshirt because it's chilly. Brendan gets there around 7-ish. They drive around in Dolores Avery's golf cart picking up debris. When they're done, Stephen asks if he wants to help clean the mess in the garage. Scott Taddock says he saw a fire at 7:30 to 7:45 p.m. After about a half hour, Stephen and Brendan go out to the fire and Stephen gets a call on his cell from Barb. She wanted to know if Brendan was there. She reminds Stephen to tell Brendan he needs to be home before 10 and make sure he has a sweatshirt on. They watch the fire, and then at 9:30, 9:45, Brendan goes home. Stephen received 2 calls from Jody on 10:31, one at 5:36 p.m. and the other at 8:57. So then the next date we have is 11:03. Teresa's boss, Tom Pierce, called Teresa Halbach's mother, Karen Halbach, around 1 p.m. and told her that Teresa didn't show up for work Tuesday or Wednesday. He was worried because her voicemail was full, and that was unusual for Teresa because that was her business phone also. Karen called Mike and Tim Halbach to ask if they heard from Teresa. She also called Auto Trader to ask when was the last time they heard from Teresa and didn't get an answer. So then she called the Calumet County Sheriff's Department. Mike Halbach got into Teresa's cell phone records and knew her last call was on Monday, 10:31. They used her cell phone records to retrace Teresa's steps. They put up posters on 11/5 and 11/4. Ryan Hilgas, Teresa's ex-boyfriend, planned to get a group together at Teresa's house on 11/5 to do an organized search in Manitowoc where Teresa was last seen. Teresa was reported missing at 5 p.m. on 11/3. On 11/5, the RAV4 was found at 10:30 a.m. by Pam Sturm, Karen Halbach's husband's first cousin. It was about 350 feet from a car crusher at the Avery Salvage Yard that was 40 acres and had around 40,000 vehicles. Investigators became actively involved in the search at 2 p.m. on 11/5. Detective Jacobs asks if Stephen Avery is in custody. 11/8, Stephen Avery's trailers, 11/6, I went the wrong way. 11/6, Brendan denied any knowledge of Teresa Halbach's death. The firearms and garage searched on 11/6. 11/7, volunteers helped search the 40 acres of 40,000 cars. Ryan Hilgas and Scott Blodorn, Teresa's roommate, sign in at the Avery Salvage Yard at 9:03 a.m. and out at 4:28 p.m. Male blood is found in 6 locations in the RAV4 and female blood in the back. They discover what they say are Teresa Halbach's electronics in burn barrels at Stephen Avery's and Barb Yonda's. 11/8, Colborn removes all contents of Stephen Avery's nightstand. No evidence is discovered. Ryan Hilgas and Scott Blodorn again sign in at Avery Salvage. They sign in at 6:41 p.m. and out at 7:06 p.m. 11:08, Stephen Avery's trailer searched again, and this time Lenk finds a key to the RAV4. The RAV4 plates are found by volunteer fireman William Brands kind of on the path on the way to the trailers. Human bone fragments were found in the burn area, but claim they couldn't examine or recover the area because of a German Shepherd chained up nearby. 11:09, they declare the bones as human and female. Stephen Avery is arrested on a weapons charge for the .22 caliber Marlin Glenfield semi-automatic rifle that belonged to Stephen's landlord that hung over his bed. They find a cut on his hand and take a swab of his saliva. 11:10, they recover more bones. They find DNA on the key. 11:11, the blood found in the cargo area on the RAV4 match a soda can Teresa Halbach had in the front of her car. Now we jump all the way to 12:06. So from 11:11 to 12:06, Teresa Halbach's death certificate is issued. It states she was pronounced dead on November 10, but then also says that the actual or estimated date of death is unknown. Stephen Avery's preliminary trial begins. Judge Patrick Willis decides enough evidence exists to hold Stephen over for trial. 12:20, Stephen Avery accepts a settlement from Manitowoc Sheriff's Department for $400,000. January 16, 2006, Stephen Avery pleads innocent. January 19, FBI says cremains and burn pit belong to Teresa Halbach. February 7, Ken Kratz emails Sherry Culhane asking her if she really was the person who tested Stephen Avery's blood sample back in 1985. February 20, Wiegert re-interviews Avery's family, and Kayla says Brendan Dassey has been acting up lately. February 27, Wiegert and Fassbender go to Brendan's school and take him out of class. Brendan is then re-interviewed after 10 p.m. in a resort hotel in Mishicot. Wiegert and Fassbender take Brendan to his trailer to get his jeans that had bleach stains on them. They also took Barb Yanda's handcuffs and leg irons. March 1, Brendan Dassey is interviewed again, and they got a search warrant for the garage. Brendan is arrested and charged with first-degree intentional homicide, rape, first-degree sexual assault, pregnancy, bodily harm, and mutilating a corpse. They find 2 bullets in the garage, and Sherry Culhane claims Teresa Halbach's DNA is on one of them. March 2nd, Kratz holds a press conference where he taints the jury pool. March 3rd, Brendan Dassey is charged and bail set at $250,000. Len Kaczynski is appointed to defend him. March 6th, they find 11 separate .22 caliber shell casings in the garage. Stephen Avery's girlfriend Jody is released from jail. March 7, Wiegert re-interviews Kayla and gets a statement of Brendan Dassey's involvement in Teresa Halbach's murder. March 8, Kratz adds kidnapping, false imprisonment, and sexual assault with a dangerous weapon to Stephen Avery's charges due to Brendan's statement. March 17, Stephen Avery's pretrial begins, and Judge Willis ups his bond from $500,000 to $750,000. April 3rd, they take a Q-tip and swab the hood latch, and Culhane gets a full profile that Kratz claims is Stephen Avery's sweat. April 27, and there's no such thing as sweat DNA. Let me just add that in there. April 27, Kaczynski emails his investigator, Michael O'Kelly, and tells his plans to use Brendan Dassey to help convict Stephen Avery. May 9, O'Kelly emails Kaczynski outlining how he will coerce a confession from Brendan Dassey. May 12, Judge Fox said Brendan Dassey's statements were voluntary and admissible. O'Kelly manipulates Brendan Dassey and has him write out a confession and draw the rape and murder. Then in May, but I don't have dates, it is Jody is caught drinking and spends 5 nights in jail. She is issued a no contact order from Stephen Avery. Judge Willis forbids Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department from any involvement in Stephen Avery's trial. It's moved to Calumet County. Judge Willis rules that the defense cannot suggest to the jury any suspects by name except Brendan Dassey. Judge Fox denies Brendan Dassey a new attorney. In June, Colborn files his report from his interaction with Steven Avery from 11/3/05. So 8 months prior, he's now filing a report. June 30th, Brendan Dassey writes a letter to Judge Fox recanting his confession. Fox dismisses Kaczynski after finding out he allowed Brendan to be interrogated without counsel. Now we go to August 31. Jody ends her relationship with Steven Avery. Then we jump to January 29, 2007. Judge Willis kidnaps 2 of 3 charges against Steven Avery, kidnapping and sexual assault, because the state won't indicate if Brendan Dassey will testify in Steven's case. January 30th, 2007. Judge Willis denies state motion to exclude blood vial. The state asks the judge to allow the FBI to develop a chemical test to prove blood not planted, and judge allows it. A test like this has not been done in over 10 years. On February 12, 2007, Steven Avery's trial begins in Chilton, Wisconsin. On March 16th, Richard Mahler is dismissed from the jury. March 18th, Steven Avery is found guilty of first-degree intentional homicide and possession of a firearm. He was found not guilty on mutilation of a corpse. April 16, Brendan Dassey's trial begins. April 25, Brendan Dassey is found guilty of first-degree intentional homicide, mutilating a corpse, and second-degree sexual assault. June 1st, Steven Avery is sentenced to life in prison without possibility of early release. August 2nd, Brendan Dassey is sentenced to life without possibility of early release in 2048. So I have more stuff on here, but nothing really to read. And where my timeline ends is December 18th, 2015. Netflix releases Making a Murderer. So I haven't updated anything since then. So this was the timeline just leading up to Making a Murderer. Let me scroll. Julia says, I suggested they make a movie about Steven and Brendan. Do you think it would help bring attention to their case? Or a movie about you helping all these people who are wrongly accused? I'll be doing a show on what's it called? Roku. But I don't know if a movie, Julia, helps it. Because Making a Murderer was just so huge, so if the results of Making a Murderer hasn't freed him, I don't know that any other Hollywood thing would, you know what I'm saying? It's all because of our stupid judicial system, and that's blocking him from getting a fair trial. So we need to fix our system. Jasmine says, I've just gone to the MAM page and used the search bar timeline, but lots came up. You might be able to find it better. Well, thank you for trying, Jasmine. Gail says, look at 10 November 2005. Do I have anything on here for that? All I have on my timeline, Gail, is they recover more bones and they find DNA on the key. That's all I have marked on my timeline. Not that my timeline is everything. That's just what I typed. I don't even know how long ago it was that I made that. Earl says, it's photo 295 in SAT photos. Well, thank you, Earl. No, Julie, you haven't missed much. This is just educate me type thing on what's going on in the Stephen Avery case or anything else anybody wanted to talk about. Julia says, I think I think if they were burning a body, it would have stunk bad. Brendan would have mentioned the odor, you think? You would think so. Because also, too, when the stuff is allegedly burning, I don't know. I mean, when you look at the timeline, when is there even time to burn this body? And it was an open business during the day. And then there were the people that were driving around in golf carts shooting at varmints. You would think somebody would have smelled something. Jennifer says, how would they know Teresa was pregnant for them to charge Brendan with pregnancy? Yeah, it was a really weird thing. I don't remember the details on that, Jennifer. Just reading it there, it's going, okay, I remember something on that, but not for sure what that even is. Heather says, hey, Mamsters, what's this about? You can always look at when I do lives in the title of it or in the body of it that I put what the main topic is. So I had titled this one, You Tell Me What's New, because I'm out of the loop. Sean says, it's ridiculous. The law is bent. I know. It's really, really bad. So that was my timeline. Can I copy all this? No. I told you I'm technologically challenged, so I don't know if I can copy all this and paste it into this live. It might look all gobbledygook too. I don't know. I don't know what the formatting will do. Sorry, comments cannot be longer than 8,000 characters. All right, hold on. Let me go into gossip and I will just make a thread with this timeline. I really need to go to the eye doctor. I think that's another reason why I'm so tired, that I really need, because I'm not tired, my eyes are tired. So I really need to get some glasses, and then my eyes won't be so tired when I read here. Some real glasses, not just the cheaters you buy from the store. Okay. I just posted that. If anybody is interested in that timeline I did once upon a time. And then if there's any of you that want to update it and send me an updated version of it with what's happened, the dates after Making a Murderer, I'd love it. And also anything I have that's missing here. But I want facts, not things that we think. Let me scroll. Oh. It's a big scrolling of the thing that I tried to post that is now muted, saying that you can't post that. Amanda says, the psychic letter is driving me mad. What does it mean? Psychic as in psychic? Yeah, see, I just think the best thing is that Scott's nickname is Skinny. And the people are illiterate. And so how that psychic was spelled is how they were spelling skinny. I know that's also a reach, but it's the best theory in my opinion. Julie says, imagine what can now be added to your timeline now. Geez, each entry would be like a whole page for each date, right? Oh, yeah. So, and I think I did that way early on too. So, it's old. But let's see. Anything else anybody wants to discuss? Oh, here's something that somebody tried submitting something. Oh, but it's not there any longer. So another one of the admins already approved it. We should be Marnie Yang's press conference or filing is now scheduled to be October 1st and the press conference on October 2nd. And once those things happen, then I'll be able to tell you more about Marnie's case, and we'll be able to discuss that more in depth. Melissa's case, we're still waiting on her to get a court date. We could get a court date tomorrow. It could be months from now. Don't know. So, but as soon as we know that date, we will tell you all. Do I have this on here? No. Where's my iPad? Hold on. Let me get my iPad. Because I'll pull up my email with Melissa or from Melissa and see, vertigo. See what she said about visit. Okay. She's not sure if I can visit her on that Wednesday. Okay. So I'll wait to hear from Marnie too. Then there's the Kent Pellegrini case. I posted a couple of the filings in his case. Then there is also he's been writing about his case for a long time, and he wants me to start releasing what he's written from his side. So for right now, you have his latest denial, the day that was, and then I also sent some other filings that or decisions or whatever you want to call them. The thing to know in Kent's case, because I know somebody was talking about like the denial that was posted, and they said something like, why would you post this? This looks bad for Kent. You have to remember when you're having a filing and it's what's in there is the state's opinion on things, or the judge refusing to see Kent's side of the things and only going off of what the state says, you're only getting one side. So that's not a negative thing to be posting about Kent, and it's not a negative thing on his case. It's just another example of how horrible the system is that they're not allowing Kent's side and Kent's experts to be out there and only going by what the state says. So I've posted those couple of filings on there, so you can go read those for now. I know somebody else had asked me on Kent's page if I would summarize it, but I said no, in that I want people to read the stuff and get an opinion for themselves on what they're reading, and then we can discuss it. And I get it. I don't like reading all the filings too. You know, that some of them can ramble on and be long or be in legal mumbo jumbo, and I don't understand it and gets all confusing. But so I put those out there for now. You know, these are the filings that have happened this year. So I want people to look at those. And then I'll be putting up some stuff in Kent's own words. I'm having such a trouble speaking today. Let me scroll. Hello, Shelley. Julia says, maybe they should give a reward to the person who sent the letter if they come forward. Yeah. Did Melissa get her iPad yet? No. She has not. I don't know. Because she had only told me they were going to be able to, but I don't know if there was a date decided on yet on when they could start getting their iPads. Amanda says, what do you think about the appeal word count being denied? I just think it's petty and stupid back and forth that we always have. It doesn't mean anything good and it doesn't mean anything bad. It's just dumb. Sean says, why would they not let him put the property up for bail bonds? It would have been worth a lot more than the bond. Yeah. But remember, everybody was trying to stop Stephen from being able to have a good defense, because it was even the Halbach family, because Teresa's brother, Tim Halbach's a lawyer. And so he was instantly trying to put things in motion to prevent Stephen from having any money, so Stephen wouldn't be able to hire any kind of lawyer for any kind of money. So everything was working against Stephen. Everybody was working against Stephen. His own family was working against him. Not his parents, but everybody else in his family was working against him. So it's just, there was no fair system for Stephen. Okay. Reward. I want to, we can touch on the reward. In my opinion, we've talked about this before, the $100,000 reward isn't going to do anything, because the person needs to be able to prove whatever they have on who really did it. And them knowing who did it means they're going to need immunity of some kind, because they were part of it in some way, whether or not it's just helping plant the RAV4 there. Kathleen can't give you immunity. The prosecutors is who does that. And do you think they're going to give you immunity to blow up their case when they're so desperate to keep Stephen in there? So I think of the reward as a stunt that isn't going to pay off. You know, so the dude from Australia who's putting up the money, he's never going to have to pay it out. And I think that was probably known because of them putting the rule on there that you don't get the money unless the person's convicted. The real killer is convicted. That's tough. So that reward isn't going to do anything, so don't get your hopes up. Julie says, strange that Tim Halbach opposed a trust fund in Teresa's name, I believe, September 2005, a month before she went missing. Yeah, Julie, there's a lot of really weird stuff in the Halbach family. Because isn't there also that Teresa Halbach's name is on some kind of property or something, that property tax had to be paid on, that happened well after she was allegedly dead? And then when people attack the Avery family about, you know, like Stephen's wife is now married to Brendan's dad and those kinds of things, well, you also have that in the Halbach family, because Teresa's dad died, and so her mom married her husband's brother. So, you know, a lot happens up there. Oh, we only have 18 people left on at this point, and no other questions or comments or discussion. Maybe I'll schedule something at some point where we can have, you know, so that I schedule it in advance so people know what's happening rather than me saying in a half hour I'll go live. It's only because it's like, oh, I'm at home and I got this small little window of time and I haven't been on lately. So I'm like, all right, I'll hop on real quick. Banda says, didn't Teresa also hand in her notice to Auto Trader? I know that's something that's been said, but I don't know if that was official. You know, that she was really wanting to do more of her personal photography business. And, you know, she was doing a lot of the boudoir photos. And that's how she got into a threesome with a married couple. And then the husband left his wife for Teresa, which caused a whole lot of drama. And that's not me trying to talk ill of, you know, trying to make the victim or re-victimize the victim. It's just truth. So, and that was Bradley Check, right? That was his name that Teresa had the affair with. So yeah, Amanda, I remember hearing something. Well, and she was only working at Auto Trader on Mondays. You know, so it wasn't her main job. So, but I don't know if she ever did you know, turning in that, you know, that somebody's got a document of like a written notice. So, all right. Then I'm going to end this. We're going on 5 p.m. my time, and I got stuff I got to do tonight. So I'm out for now. If anything pops up, you know, we'll always go live as soon as we can. If there's any breaking news in any of these cases, feel free. In Gossip, you can post links to other cases. You can discuss other, you know, crime shows and whatnot in here. You know, we're more open here. Even though it's titled MAM Gossip, it is open to discuss other cases here. So, all right, I'm out for today. Have a good evening.